So
Let's start with maybe what are these next gen AI models that are going to have such a big impact on business? What are we talking about here? Because it seems like it's really hard to keep track of what all these models are doing these days.
I can't even keep track. I mean, I go into OpenAI, it's like your model selection is went from, one model to, I don't know, eight, all which have different different qualities to them. But I think the big shift has been the move to the reasoning models, which are fundamentally different in many ways than the traditional language
Right.
models. And they are, as the name suggests, better at reasoning at problems than the traditional models are. Traditional models don't operate this way. Reasoning models have something basically called chain of thought reasoning in them. So when you ask it a question, it will attempt to come up with a chain of thought to solve a problem. That's the huge difference. So they tend to be better at solving, fairly complex problems, much like humans do, and they're much better at it.
And it's really funny because it's obvious why that works for human beings, right? Like we all learned in elementary school or whenever to show your work and break down a problem into steps. And
Right.
ultimately, it was not just about showing that you knew the steps, it was that that would get you a better answer or get you the correct answer.
Right.
But it's fascinating that that has such a positive effect on these reasoning models. But it's true, it really does.
Oh, it has a tremendous impact on the results that you're getting, and even a lot of the use cases that you and I have looked at and problems that we've solved with the more traditional AI. Now, like it's been around for 20 years. The previous generation of language models, um, I would solve problems very differently now with the newer models. I think they give you a
Right.
level of flexibility and problem solving capabilities that are far better than the language models, the traditional language models that are out there.
Yeah.
I know
It,
not to say you couldn't do some of the stuff. I'm sorry. With the other models, it was just more difficult. This is
right.
embedded in these models, hence that's why they're called reasoning models.
Right. And it's also interesting because, to your point, you could do some of this with previous models. You could say, for example, show my work as part
Right.
of your prompt on on a non-reasoning model, and you would get some version of a chain of thought, but it was not going to be as detailed or as
No.
rich as what you get out of these reasoning models, where showing your work is just part of the way that they operate.
And it's interesting watching them work. Like if you go into some of these models and you'll see if you actually ask it to show you its thinking process, you'll see how it iterates through thinking and how it
Yeah.
comes up with really is basically a plan in order to solve your particular problem. And it'll iterate over it in many cases several times until it gets to a set of steps that it will follow to solve your problem specifically. And the results that you see are, you and I have used them or started to use them in our work and are quite impressive. Don't you
Yeah.
think?
I think they're great. And it's really fascinating to watch them, as you said, come up with that plan and then refine the plan. And then the other part that I find fascinating is every once in a while, you'll also see them questioning the results of a particular step in that plan and going
Right,
back and saying, literally sometimes saying, wait, that's not right. Let me try that again, or
right,
let me look
right.
for more information. So it is sort of uncanny in the way that even though it operates on a completely different principle from the way our minds operate,
Mhm.
at a behavioral level, it's sort of imitating us.
It is. It's going through all these processes. I mean, we as humans can only go down a couple of different directions where these models can test thousands of different potential opportunities or potential directions. I think, which is what makes them so incredibly powerful, is that they can, in fact, test all these different paths that you can go down and solve a problem, and then come up with the one that it thinks is the best one to solve the problem. And that's fascinating watching it and how it actually works. And in some sense, it's brute force approach to problem solving. It's fine. But I think with these types of models, you are in fact seeing, um, certainly in science, they're starting to use them in science, and you're seeing breakthroughs. You're seeing them discover things that humans wouldn't have actually put together so easily, but are legitimate paths for either further research or just, they take it down a path that you wouldn't have ever expected, which I think is fascinating.
It's also interesting how, these things come in fits and starts. I think if you look at
Mm.
5 years ago, we were 100 years away from AGI, artificial general intelligence. And then 2 years ago, it was maybe within the decade. And as
Right.
of 2 weeks ago, I think they're predicting it. What was it that Sam Altman predicted? I think he said it would be in it was a couple of years, right? In
Yeah, it's a couple years. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
they keep bringing the
So
data in. Yeah, they keep bringing it in.
I'm not
I'm
sure.
still,
Do you think we'll know when we get there? Like we talk about it as if it's going to be this binary flip from before to after AGI, and it might
I know.
just be more gradual because it might we might already be in the beginning stages of it,
I
and it will.
Well, I think you're right. I think we're in the beginning stages of it. I don't know, and I think you're spot on. I think you said it correctly. I think it'll happen so slowly we won't appreciate it that it's happened, and then one day it will be the recognition that it's here. And it won't be because we woke up one day and there was some major breakthrough. It'll be just a very slow, iterative process that over time, we've recognized that these models have gotten so powerful that effectively they are intelligent. I mean, whatever
Yep.
intelligence is, you can pick a definition.
Yeah.
But arguably, if you go back to the old Turing test, which was, at the time the definition of artificial intelligence, these models would wildly pass those.